Last episode, I told you about Alan Turing, the man who asked the question, can machines think? He asked it in 1950. He died in 1954, and the world moved on. But the question didn't die with him. It was just sitting there, waiting, like a lit fuse. And in the summer of 1956, it went off. Picture this. It's June 1956, a small college town in New Hampshire called Hanover. Green hills, quiet campus. The kind of place where nothing particularly dramatic ever happens. Except this summer, something extraordinary is about to happen here. A 28-year-old mathematician named John McCarthy has an idea. Not a small idea, not a let me write a paper idea. A genuinely audacious idea. He thinks, what if we just got everyone together, everyone who's been quietly working on this problem of machine intelligence, in their separate labs, in their separate universities, all working on pieces of the same puzzle without talking to each other. What if we just put them all in one room for a summer? So he writes a proposal. He sends it to the Rockefeller Foundation asking for funding, and he writes something that will echo through history. He proposes a study based on the conjecture that, and I'm quoting directly here, every aspect of learning or any other feature of intelligence can in principle be so precisely described that a machine can be made to simulate it. Read that again slowly. Every aspect of intelligence can be described and simulated by a machine. In 1956, when the most powerful computers on Earth could barely do basic arithmetic, that is either the most brilliant idea in history or the most deluded. Possibly both. So who actually showed up? The four people who organized it were McCarthy himself, Marvin Minsky from Harvard, Claude Shannon from Bell Labs, yes, the Claude Shannon who invented information theory, and Nathaniel Rochester from IBM. Then over the course of the summer, others came through. Alan Newell and Herbert Simon from Carnegie Mellon, Arthur Samuel, Oliver Selfridge, Ray Solomonoff. These weren't random people. These were the founding fathers of computer science, the people whose names are on buildings and awards and research centers today. And they were all young. McCarthy was 28. Minsky was 28. They were kids, essentially. Incredibly smart, incredibly ambitious kids who thought they were about to change the world. They were right. They were just wrong about how long it would take. Here's the part of the story nobody tells you. The conference was kind of a mess. People came and went at different times. Only 3 people, McCarthy, Minsky, and Solomonoff, stayed for the whole thing. The discussions were sometimes brilliant and sometimes went nowhere. There was no grand unified theory that emerged. No breakthrough moment where someone stood up and said, I've solved it. McCarthy himself later said, I believed if only we could get everyone together to devote time to it and avoid distractions, we could make real progress. They made some progress, just not the kind they expected. What they did instead was something more important than any single breakthrough. They named the field. They established that this was a real scientific discipline worth pursuing. They created a community, a network of researchers who would go on to build the labs and the programs and the ideas that everything else in AI history would grow from. After Dartmouth, McCarthy went to MIT and then Stanford. Minsky stayed at MIT. Newell and Simon went back to Carnegie Mellon. 3 of the most important AI research centers in history, all seated by the people who met at this summer workshop. It's like a band that never had a hit record, but every member went on to start a legendary band of their own. And then there's the prediction. The proposal said they thought they could make significant progress on the problem of machine intelligence. In one summer, they were going to solve intelligence in 2 months. They didn't, obviously. 70 years later, we're still working on it. But here's what's interesting. That overconfidence, that we'll solve this soon energy, it never really went away. It became a pattern that repeats itself all through AI history. Every decade, someone announces that human-level AI is just around the corner. Every decade, it turns out to be harder than anyone thought. We'll come back to this pattern many times in this series. It has a name, the AI winter, and it's coming. But right now, in the summer of 1956, none of that matters. Right now, there are a handful of brilliant young men gathered around a dictionary on a stand in Dartmouth Hall. Yes, an actual documented moment. looking up the word heuristic because they thought it might be useful. They're excited. They're ambitious. They believe they're standing at the beginning of something enormous. They are. They just can't see how long the road actually is. The field has a name now: artificial intelligence. And everything in this series, every breakthrough, every winter, every company, every $1 billion, every model you've ever used, traces back to this summer. This quiet campus, these young men, this dictionary. Next episode, one of those men in that room, Arthur Samuel, had already built something remarkable. Before the conference, before the name even existed, a program that could learn, by itself, without being told how. That story is next. This is AI Unfolded, one story at a time. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one.